Welcome to She Sells Radio. I have not even recorded the interview for today's episode yet, and I already know that it is going to be so powerful and also probably pretty emotional because it's a topic that hits home for me, and I know it will for you in your own way as well. So I'm going to give a little bit of a backstory here before I introduce our absolutely phenomenal, incredible guest. So, since you're in the community, you may or may not know that back in 2020, I was diagnosed with skin cancer and ended up having surgery for that left a very visible scar on my face, on my forehead. And as someone who loves beauty and almost became a makeup artist instead of becoming a coach, it was honestly a relatively traumatizing experience. And to this day, it's something that I've done healing work around and I'm like a lot better than I was. But if I'm being honest, I still haven't completely embraced it the way that I know I will at some point in my life and that I'm like actually really ready to at this point. So, I was going to record, I'm going to give you a little context for having our guest on today. I went to record an episode of the podcast a few months ago, and I saw on video the way the light hit my scar a certain way, and it looked pretty prominent. And in that moment, I could feel my confidence drop. And I was like, it's time to go deeper on this. And it's time to start embracing this. And in that moment, sometimes when we have those challenging moments of self-doubt, limiting beliefs, we also have that flash of inspiration of what's the next step. And so in that moment, this thought popped in my mind that was, you have to get Amberly Lago on the podcast. So if you're not familiar with Amberly, first of all, I want you to go look her up. She's got the most amazing content on social, and we'll link all of it in the show notes here. But she will absolutely inspire you. So you're going to want to go connect with her after you finish listening to this. And I had the honor of connecting with Amberly actually years ago, and we were connecting about her brand many, many, many years ago, like I said, and we've stayed in touch loosely over the years. And I have seen what she has done and watched her absolutely blow up and serve the world in such a big way, sharing her message of resilience and grit and grace. So I promise I'm going to let Amberly share more of her backstory in a moment, but I want to share a bit of her bio here first, just so if you're not yet familiar with her, which I'm guessing you are, but if you're not, I want you to know more about this incredible woman you're about to learn from. So at age 38, Amberly Lago's life was turned upside down. She was hit by an SUV while riding her motorcycle, had 34 surgeries to save her leg from amputation, and was diagnosed with complex regional pain syndrome, which is dubbed the suicide disease. And she knows how to strengthen resilience because she has lived it. And she now shares her passion for turning tragedies into triumphs at exclusive workshops, public events, corporate summits, and schools. She's a 2 times best-selling author and speaks on stages with people you would absolutely know, like Lewis Howes, Ed Mylett, Glennon Doyle, Brendon Burchard, Trent Shelton, Mel Robbins, and more. And she offers hope and solutions for anyone feeling stuck or living in chronic pain, and has been featured on NBC's Today Show, the Hallmark Channel, TEDx. She's got an amazing TEDx talk you got to go watch. The Doctors, Good Morning La La Land, and featured in many magazines such as Health, Fit Pregnancy, Shape, and Disability magazine. Amberly, I'm so grateful to share this space with you this morning. We were chatting before we hit record, and I was like, we got to hit record because I'll just talk to you for hours and we'll never hit record and it'll be great for us. But I want everyone to hear what you have to say too. So welcome to She Sells Radio. I'm so, so glad to have you here.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And I don't know if you could tell, but you had me in tears when you were just sharing. And I remember seeing on social media about the skin cancer and the scar, but when we got on, I totally forgot. Like I forgot because I can't see your scar. I just see your beautiful eyes and your beautiful smile. And so I was asking about the kids, and I was like, how's the baby? And I totally forgot. And I know how hard overcoming that is. Like my nickname used to be legs at the gym. I was known for my legs, and to go from, being a fitness model to being completely scarred from the hip down and deformed. And, and in fact, I just got back from an event and I worked out in my boots, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, you're working out in boots." And yesterday I was at the gym and this guy was like, "Wow, I can't believe you just did the step mill in boots." And I'm like, "Well, my ankle's fused and made of metal, and it's really the only thing I can wear that doesn't flare me up." And so I know what it was so hard for me to be an
Yeah.
acceptance and learn to look at my leg with grace and
Mm.
as strength and growth instead of disgust. Cause I'm telling you, I used to look at it. I actually really hated myself, and hate's a 4-letter word in our family.
Mm.
So I admire you, and especially if you're coming from a place where you love makeup and you were going to be a makeup artist, and having to like really accept that and ask yourself, how can I grow from this? It's a big deal. So I just adore you. Thank you for having me here. And my intention is to really share as much value with your amazing audience and, your listeners as possible. So thank you.
Oh, oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Yeah. I think, and it's so funny when I share that because it's so mild compared to what you went through. And I also know nothing is big or small. It just is, right? It's like we all have our own personal experiences. But I appreciate you just creating that space because I think all of us can relate in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a physical scar or an emotional one, right? We have these things. We
Yeah.
have these things that impact our self-image and impact our confidence. And
Yeah.
something that I really teach here in our community is so often people come to the podcast and they come to the community because they want sales help. And I think sales is the Trojan horse for what we really aim to deliver, which is getting under the hood of what's holding you back from achieving the goals that you have in business and in life. And I think when we do that, we can create lasting transformation. And I want to open up in a minute for you to share a little bit about your journey of shifting your self-image after this accident happened, because I do think self-image is such a huge either enabling factor or limiting factor in terms of our results. And like it or not, our physical appearance impacts our self-image. And so for you to go from age 38, which I'm actually turning 38 next week. So I love the synchronicity behind this, like age
Happy
38, right?
birthday.
Thank you. Thank you. But you're living the dream, right? You're living the California dream, age 38. Everything is, obviously there's challenges, but no expectation that this is coming in your life. This incredibly challenging accident happens. Though, like you said, your nickname was legs. This is the thing you're known for. And suddenly it's completely scarred and you think you have to have your leg amputated.
Now it's Boots. That's my
Oh,
nickname.
is your
That's what they
nickname
call
Boots?
me at the gym. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to start a fashion trend or anything. I was like,
Hear
this is
it.
just happens to be all I can wear. I mean, I have my boots on right now because they're comfortable.
Yes, good for you. I love it. Um, Talk to us about what that journey has been like of learning to, I know you've got this great analogy you call pacer for helping people work through pain and really step into resilience. Maybe we can speak to that. What was that journey of acceptance like, and turning this from something that you did hate about yourself to something that now has empowered you to go out and create a brand that serves millions and speak on stages with other influential leaders in our space? Like, what has that journey of shifting your self-image and accepting this been like for you?
Hell.
Mm,
I'm
thank you
just
for your
keeping it real,
honesty.
okay? I'm keeping it real.
Please, that's all I
It
want. Yeah.
it was it was probably the hardest thing I've been through. I mean, look, yeah, going after I was on, I was hit by an SUV while riding my motorcycle, going through surgery after surgery after surgery. That was hard. I mean, it was, I remember my husband couldn't even be in the hospital room because they would change my bandages every 3 hours. My leg was completely exposed and held together by these metal rods. And the pain was so horrific that I would have to squeeze the bed rails and I couldn't control the screams that would come out.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
he could not even be in the room. It was so hard for him to hear that. That was hard, but it was the real journey was when I got out of the hospital, and it was like,
Mm.
okay, life must go on. The only thing is I was diagnosed with this nerve disease. I'm completely scarred up. And I did not want to know, I didn't want anybody to know how much pain I was in. I had a hard time asking for help. And I didn't want anybody to see how scarred up I was. And I remember I had a friend of mine who um, came over. She was a photographer and she kept taking pictures of me in my wheelchair. And I was like, don't take pictures of me. Now I wish I did have some pictures of
Mm.
me in my wheelchair, or the times I didn't want any pictures of me in the hospital bed. I did not want pictures of me in my wheelchair. I did not want pictures of, I have like one picture of me standing up that shows my scars, because my husband took that picture and said, we need to take a picture so we can kind of monitor the way your leg looks, if it's getting better
Mhm.
or worse or whatever. And I was just trying to suck it up. And in fact, when I remember going into this doctor's office and I was thinking he was going to be really proud of me, because I was upright on crutches, where they said I wouldn't be able to even do that for probably 2 years. They said,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know if you're going to be able to get out of bed. The pain would be so extreme because my leg was all put back together. The veins, my femoral artery was severed. So everything, like my calf is in the front of my leg. I know that sounds crazy, but I had a muscle flap. The skin from the top of my leg is now on the bottom of my leg.
Mm.
It was just, so every time I would stand up, the pain would be so severe, because your calf helps get the blood back up. So the blood
Mm.
would get stuck at the bottom of my leg. My foot would swell up. And, but I was upright. I was determined, and I always had grit. And so I go into this doctor's office and he's like, are you the kind of person who likes to push through the pain? And I was like, well, yes, I am. And I kind of thought, oh, he can tell I've got a PhD and suck it up. Like, he can
Yeah.
tell that I like grit. He goes, you need to stop. You need to stop right now. You need to go home and get back in your wheelchair, because you're going to be, not able to walk. You've got an incurable disease. So now I looked at my leg. I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut. And I looked at my leg with disgust,
Mm.
I like, this leg doesn't work properly. It just gives me pain. And now I've got a disease too on top of it. I was in denial. I was in denial. I was trying to pretend like I just wanted to be normal. I wanted to go back to how things were. And I realized the hard way that there was no going back, that things would never be any different. And I think that sometimes we need people to love us until we can love ourselves.
Mm.
And thankfully, I had a husband that never stopped loving me. Sometimes we need people to believe in us until we can believe in ourselves. And sometimes all we need is a little shift in our perspective that helps us see things differently. And so I learned to be in acceptance in a pretty radical way. I was still in denial. I was trying to suck it up and stuff it down, and the pain was not getting any better. And I thought, well, I've got this brilliant idea. I'm going to just go into the doctor and ask him to cut my leg off. So I go into Dr. Wiss, the guy who had done 34 surgeries to save my leg. And I said, Dr. Wiss, I appreciate all you've done and that you've tried to, help me out here by saving my leg, but the pain's not getting any better. My leg's deformed and disgusting. We need to just go ahead and cut it off. And he said, we can't do that. And he
Mm.
did something that changed my life. He sat in front of me and he took my leg. This gets me emotional because it's just
Yeah.
like, feels like yesterday. He took my leg and he put it in his lap. And my thought was, wow, I can't believe he's putting my ugly, disgusting leg on his nice white coat. And
Mm.
he rubbed my leg and looked at it and touched it. Like, he looked at it like it was a masterpiece. And I thought,
Mm.
wow, if he can look at my leg that way, maybe I can learn to look at it that way too. And something shifted in me that day. He just completely shifted my perspective. And it wasn't easy, but it started to be possible. And I was willing to look at it differently. And every single
Mm.
day, I started to appreciate it for holding me up, appreciating how amazing the human body is, that it can heal the way that it does. Started just being grateful that I could walk. Even on days that I'm in pain, that I can walk. Some days I still have to use crutches, but I can use crutches. And I'm, nothing against wheelchairs. My brother's been in a wheelchair his whole life, but that I'm out of a wheelchair. And so he really changed my life. I write about that part in my book because it was really a life-changing thing. And a lot of times, I think it's the way you look at acceptance. Acceptance, the truth will set you free. Now, it
Mm.
might kick your butt a little bit, but it will set you free, and it allows you to take action steps in the right direction. And that it has done for me. And once I started to show my scars, in fact, I just pinned a post on my Instagram. I was looking through trying to find a picture, and I was like, oh my gosh, I had no idea that this post had 175 people that shared this post, and
Mm.
it's showing my scars. And I think so many people shared it because I share my scars so others know that they can heal. And I've had people that have come up to me who've had double mastectomy after cancer,
Mm.
and felt like their confidence was ripped away until they found me, and they were in acceptance for their scars, and they started to rebuild their confidence. And one lady, even, it changed her whole career, because now she does events and coaching with people who have survived cancer.
Wow.
So that's kind of how I started to accept it. And now it's crazy because I can say that I'm grateful for all these scars that I have, because it reminds me of the strength that we have within us to keep moving forward, and the resilience that we have that comes from deep within us, and the support around us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so powerful. I think we're going to call this episode "Turning Scars into Superpowers," and I want to hear your thoughts on this, because you say, I think it's in your TEDx. I can't remember where I heard you say it, but something about we are sometimes thrown experiences in life to teach us the lessons we most need to learn. And kind of like we were talking about at the beginning of the interview, we all have some sort of a scar, whether it's a physical, whether it's emotional. Many of us have both. And I'd love for you to share your perspective on this. So we see, we've got men in the community too. So I love everyone who's part of our community. I'm going to speak specifically to women um, here for a minute. We see a lot of women come into the community, and they're like, whether it's a sexual abuse survivor, which I think is part of your background as well,
Mhm.
whether it's emotional abuse, whether it is some sort of a physical thing, and it's hindering how they show up in their career. It's hindering their ability to make money because they don't put themselves out there. They're afraid of the visibility. Um, I always think about it like there's something, you talk about alchemy too, which I love because we talk about that here in the community too. There's some sort of gift in there that when we learn to embrace it, when we learn to accept it, we can alchemize and turn into a superpower, which is, I'm hearing you say that as you talk about this, but go deeper. Is that your perspective on it? Is there something you would add to that? Like, how do we alchemize these scars into superpowers? And is there always a gift in the pain?
In fact, look, I have this written on my desk right here. God doesn't waste pain.
Ooh.
And that's what I've written to remind me on days where
Hmm.
it's hard, or I'm struggling, whether I'm struggling mentally, emotionally, physically, in some way. Being an entrepreneur can be hard.
Who cares?
It can be painful.
Yeah.
And so I have written on my desk, God doesn't waste pain. And I
Mm.
love that you brought up alchemy. I think that I just emceed an event in LA, And I was great because a lot of my friends that I hadn't seen in a while came to this event, and it was like a reunion. It was awesome. And there's a guy, his name's Jason, and he's called the Wizard Jason. And he did it was this really fun event that I'd gone to years ago. And this is before I did my TED Talk.
Mm.
And he had you pull these tarot cards, and I'd never done anything like that before. And it was just fun, And the card that I pulled was the Alchemist. And I had
Of course.
forgotten about that. And it was very quiet, and we're in a teepee, actually. I know y'all are probably thinking, girl, you're crazy, in a teepee
This
with a
sounds like
wizard.
my kind of event, a tarot cards
It
and
was
TV.
so
Like,
fun.
sign me up.
Well, I had forgotten that I pulled that card, but when I pulled it, this friend of mine that happened to be at the event was like, she is the alchemist. She's coming out with a book, and she's turning pain to purpose, and her book is called Turning Tragedy to Triumph. It's
Mm.
true grit and grit. And then I was like, oh my gosh. And so at this event that I was the MC for, the wizard comes and he's like, Amberly, do you remember the card you pulled years ago? And I was like, no. He goes, how could you forget? He goes, out of all the cards, you pulled the most powerful card. It was the Alchemist.
Oh.
And I think that we can turn lead to gold.
Mm.
We can't. And it's funny, this just popped in my head. So about a year after my accident, I had all these metal titanium plates in my leg, and I broke the titanium. Long story short, it was a crazy 12-hour surgery to take the broken titanium out. And they had to put a rod in my leg. And
Mm.
so I have a wind chime right outside my office window.
Yeah.
And it's all the broken pieces of titanium that they took out of my leg.
Wow.
And when I hear that, it reminds me of, we can get through hard times. We
Mm.
can, look at our scars differently. We can often use our vulnerability. I think it's our strength.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time, well, once you accepted this, how did you start to share on social
Mm.
media and things like that? And I think I will say, to share from a scar and not an open wound. I
Mm.
did so much healing, so much therapy. I mean, throughout this journey, you know, when I was not in acceptance and I was trying to stuff down the pain, I was never a partier or a drinker. I was so focused on my career. But when I could not get through pain, I started drinking and I became an alcoholic.
Mm.
And by the grace of God, I got sober in 2016, but it was the acceptance that allowed me to do something about it, to get help and to gather strength and community. And so I share with people that, people think, oh, you had your accident, then you were just resilient and you're
Yeah.
resilient. And it's like, no, I still have hard days,
Yeah.
but your resilience ensures that you will rise from the storm better, and you'll get up again and you'll keep going. But I think it's really important to do the healing work. I mean, I have a therapist. I go to therapy. I have a community of people in recovery. I still go to recovery meetings. And I started sharing my story with people that I loved and trusted, then in smaller gatherings, and then at churches, and then at rehab centers, and then at networking groups. And then I started sharing it more. But I say that because I had to really heal until I could start to share this, because I'll tell you, I never forget the first time my daughter, who's 15, back when COVID hit and she started posting on TikTok. I was like, oh, that looks fun. I think I'm going to try that. And she goes, Mom, you are too old to be posting on TikTok. Don't do it. And I'm like, well, I'm definitely going to do it now. And I remember flipping my phone over, trying to get my tap shoes on. And my daughter's like, Mom, I don't think those are going to fit. You can't get that shoe on your foot. I'm like, oh, I'm going to make this shoe fit. It was the first time I tapped. I didn't even know if I still could. First time I tapped in 10 years since my accident. And I've got on shorts. And so I posted on TikTok, or, And I upload it to TikTok, and I'm like, this is the first time I've tapped since my motorcycle accident and 34 surgeries. And ooh, the comments, they're brutal over there on TikTok. I got this one guy who commented on that. Please don't show your leg. I was eating and almost threw up.
Mm.
And so I was laughing. To be honest, I mean, I'm fine with my scars. And I'm like, oops, sorry, you almost threw up. But I'm
Wow.
going to keep posting and sharing. But if I had, first of all, I wouldn't have even had the courage to wear shorts.
Mm.
Second of all, I had to do some deep healing and be in acceptance before I could do that video. Because if I posted that before I had done that work, if I saw somebody leave a comment like that, it probably would have devastated me. But
Mm.
when you are in acceptance for who you are, what you're doing, where you are on your journey, and nobody can use anything against you. Like, I am so okay and don't hold shame anymore about my sobriety journey or my scars or how I failed. I'm very open about my mistakes and how I'm failed, because that's how we learn. We learn from each other. And I don't want people to make the same mistakes that I've made. I want to teach people how to rise above them and not have to go through that experience.
Mm.
And so that was a long-winded answer to that question.
Powerful. It's so powerful. There's like so many ways I want to I want to go with that, but I think speaking to the visibility piece, because this is something that I see again, especially for the women in our community, that that fear of showing up, and what if someone says this, or what if someone says that? And I experienced it in my own life in a different way this year than I had in the past. And I know that some of this is epigenetics, right? It's in our DNA as women, the
Mhm.
witch wound. It's not safe to show up. It's not safe to be visible. People are going to criticize you if you're too much, too this, too that. So what I'm hearing you say is when you are in complete self-acceptance for
Mhm.
every area, someone can say something and it's like there's no emotional pull to it anymore. There's no emotional trigger because you've done the inner work and
Oh,
released shame.
yeah.
So speak more to that, because I think that's what I'm hearing you say is once we've done that self-acceptance work, that fear of visibility, does it drop completely for you? Like, are you good, or are there still things that come up? I guess speak to that a little bit more for
I
us.
mean, I think there will always be times that the confidence can get knocked right out of us. I mean, in fact, right before we started recording this, I'm going to be completely transparent.
Mm.
I just left a message to my web guy, my designer, and I was like, well, that launch didn't go as well as I had planned. And I'm feeling, no, let me see, what did I say? I was like, it's not like me
Mm.
to like say something like that, but I was like having a little pity party for a minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I was like, I'm feeling super discouraged. And I
Mm.
said, my launch failed.
Mm.
And
Mhm.
then I said, I'm going to snap out of it. And I'm going to make this happen. But I think that it's okay. We're human.
Mhm.
We're going to have a pity party every once in a while. The point is we can't stay there. And
Yes.
like,
Amen.
but we have to acknowledge our feelings. And so, um, I don't actually have, now I'm pretty okay. I'm okay with my scars. In fact, when I see sometimes pictures of myself on stage or something, I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, that's pretty deformed, but
Mm. Mhm.
I'm like, it is what it is.
Right.
But,
Right.
it's so true that when you have done the work and that deep healing work, it's like somebody wants to say, and I'll give you an example. So, my dad, I had been telling him I was sober for the longest time. And he would say, oh, come on, just have a beer. And I'm like, no, Dad, I really don't want a beer. I never
Mhm.
even liked beer. And I would try to kind of break it to him gently, like, no, Dad, I'm not drinking. No, I don't drink. He would just constantly over and over, Amberly, why don't you drink a beer? Come on, drink a beer. Everybody's having a beer. And finally I was like, Dad, I am an alcoholic. And it was like dead silence. And it's like, yeah, it is what it is. I was like, I go to meetings to stay sober. Like, he's never once asked me again or tried to push a beer on me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, it is what it is. Now, it took me, oh gosh, it took me 6 months before I felt strong enough emotionally, mentally, in every way to where I could tell anybody that I was sober. I had a lot of shame about that.
Mm.
But I can't tell you the amount of people that I've shared that I'm sober, even people that don't have an issue with alcohol, but they were with me at the dinner after an event. The speakers got together, and one of my friends said, "Do you know you didn't drink at that dinner, and I sat next to you? And ever since that dinner," he goes, "I wanted to drink, but I didn't drink because you weren't drinking. And I decided from that day forward that I was not going to drink anymore. And it's been over a year." He just recently shared that with me. And
Wow.
so sometimes when we share what's, after we've done the deep healing work and we share that, we have the ability to help somebody else change their life,
Mm.
you know? But I think that it is, really being okay with the scars, and whether they're visible or, they're emotional scars. If we do that work, and we heal what we reveal instead of trying to push it down and cover it up, we
Wow.
let those feelings rise to the surface so we can really heal them. And I'll tell you another quick story. For years and years and years, I didn't cry because I was sexually abused by my stepfather as a kid. And when the physical or sexual abuse stopped, he would then try to get me down in every way,
Mm.
like emotionally. And he would try to break me down, break me down, break me down. And when I would cry, he would look at me and laugh and say, "See, I knew I could make you cry."
Oh,
And
wow.
so one day I was like, I'm not crying anymore. I'm not going to let him get the best of me. So for years, I didn't cry. And one day I'm running through the airport. I've got all my bags, and I get right up to the gate, and I see the airplane is leaving. The
Mm.
doors had shut. We had missed our flight. And I looked at my daughter. I just dropped my bags and I started crying. And my daughter looked up and she goes, "Mommy, I didn't know you knew how to cry." And I thought, wow, this isn't just a story I've created for myself. It's a way of life that I'm creating for our family, and something's got to change.
Mm.
I don't want my daughters thinking it's, not okay to cry. I want them to know that we heal what we reveal, and that it's okay that we can have a tough time, but we get through it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing that. It's something, we're raising boys now, so it's a different maybe take on emotions. But that's something that we're so focused on teaching them, because there's this, and God love you if you were listening. I've got a family member who recently told my son, "Big boys don't cry." And I was mad in that moment. And I think he listens. So I love you so much if you're listening, because this stuff is passed down and we don't even think what we're saying, but we're so conscious as parents of trying to teach our sons, like, it's okay to let it out. Like, don't suppress it. Like, let that emotion out. And God love my husband. He's like, he tells our sons, like, "I cry, I let and he's learning how to do that himself too, and how to release emotions in a different way. But I love how you said we heal what we reveal. And I think for each and every one of us, we have something that we're stuffing down, suppressing, feeling shame about. And what I love so many things about your message and your brand, but one of the things that I love so much is just ownership. And when you own it, you take your power back, and no one can
Mhm.
hold that over you anymore. So there's so much. I wish I had you for like 5 hours, because there's so much more I want to ask you about. I know we're right at time. I want to ask two final questions and then we'll wrap. You shared this on your Instagram very recently, and I love this quote from Tim Grover. And he said, "If you think the price of winning is too high, just wait until you get the bill for regret. And I think you shared it in conjunction with this incredible plank challenge that you had done where you held a plank for like 8 minutes and 44 seconds at an event, which we were chatting about before the pre-chat. I was like, you are superwoman. Can you take maybe just a minute and speak to what that means to you? Each and every member of our community is going for something bigger than what they saw modeled growing up, what they were told was okay. They're going for bigger goals, bigger aspirations, and there's fear involved in that. But I love this quote. What is your perspective on this?
Oh, well, first of all, yeah, I shared the stage with Tim Grover,
Mm,
and everything out of this man's mouth was like a quotable. I was like taking notes as fast as I could. I was like, well, that's good, and that's good. And like
yeah.
he's amazing. And eh, yeah, I think about, look, fear will always pop up.
Yeah.
And I have just learned to do things scared sometimes. And I
Mm,
was recently at this other event, and one of the speakers was like, how many of you are in your comfort zone? How many of you are like, and like everybody was like kind of raising their hand. And I looked at my friend, I was like, I haven't been in my comfort zone in years. Like I was like, no, I'm doing big, scary stuff. And I have a client of mine, and she told me something that really helped me. And so when you're struggling with, fear, or you're thinking, oh, I'm going to play it safe, and I don't want what might people think of me? People are always going to judge you no matter what. So you might as well go for it. I mean, they're going to judge you no matter what. So just be you. And I
mm,
always say, stay true and be you, be your authentic self. But my client told me, so I was about to do my TED talk, and I was just, I was in imposter syndrome big time. I was the only speaker that didn't have a PhD. I had never done a big talk like that. I had never put together a talk like that. So yeah, I was scared. And I always say that action alleviates anxiety and fear,
mm,
because every time that fear would pop up or I would get anxious, two things: I would go take action. Some days that was pacing back and forth in my office and practicing my talk. Some days I just had to go outside and go for a walk or hit the gym, because that taking that action, it moves your energy. It changes your energy and it moves your mood. Um, and so, and what my client said that helped me was, she said, Amberly, you have overcome 34 surgeries. I think you can go stand on a stage and talk. And I was like, oh, yeah, she's right. So I always say, think about the hardest challenge you've ever overcome and that you made it through. And
mm.
boy, that will shift your perspective. And I remember the very first time I was going to give a talk, and my dad called, and he's like, well, what are you doing? I said, oh, I'm on my way to go speak to a bunch of realtors, financial advisors, and lawyers. And I said, I'm so nervous. And he goes, why would you ever want to do public speaking? He goes, don't you know that's the biggest fear other than death itself? And then he gave me some
Thanks,
advice
Dad.
that helped. I'm like, thanks, Dad. Yeah, I get it. I'm like sweating. My palms are dripping right now. And he goes, but just remember, this isn't about you. It's about the people you serve. And
Mm,
so I always remember that. And then, when I'm about to get up and people ask me, oh, well, you do so much speaking, do you still get nervous? I'm like, heck yeah. I was like, but I
mm.
turn that into excitement.
Yeah.
I would be worried if I didn't have butterflies, that if I wasn't scared, I'd be like, what's wrong with me? Why am I not scared right now?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what really helps me every single time is push-ups and prayer. And it's crazy because now I'm just known for doing push-ups backstage, and they're always like, oh, wow, she's down in her skirt doing some push-ups. And they're always a little surprised. But, I think it's normal to have that fear pop up. I still get scared. That's why I think it's really important to lean in to your community,
Mm,
connect with yourself, connect to your higher power, um, and remind yourself, I always remind myself, I need to anchor myself to God. I need to trust that he's running the show. It's not me anyway. Get out of my own way.
Yeah.
And, yeah. And again, like once you realize, uh, you can take your power back, like you can be in the driver's seat, that it's sometimes we're our own worst enemy and we got to just get out of our own way and go for it. Uh, and know that we all get scared sometimes, but
Yeah.
don't let fear stop us.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Amen. 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 That's beautiful. Thank you so much for your time, your wisdom, sharing your story, sharing how even when you're doing the things you're doing and speaking on the stages and selling the books and leading in this way, there's still places where every day you're getting to show up in a bigger way for yourself and to live this out. So thank you so much. Amberly, take a minute. I know we're like a couple minutes past, but hopefully we can, because I want you to take a minute and share about your event that you've got coming up in April 2024, share about your community, your mastermind, whatever you want to share, because I know that there are listeners who are going to say, I need to be in this energy. I need to elevate, and I'm ready to really transform my pain into purpose in a bigger way.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I do an annual event. It's called the Unstoppable Success Summit.
Mm,
And it is so important. I really wish that everybody knew how life-changing it is when you get in the room around like-minded people, entrepreneurs with big dreams and goals who are action takers. And so I have an amazing lineup of speakers. I've got Ben Newman, Rachel, Luna.
mm,
I've got Sarah Foley. I've got Rudy Rickstein's amazing lineup of speakers, plus a special panel. And my mastermind ladies are taking the stage. And so this is going to be some of them are already speakers. Some of them are, this will be their first time standing on stage. And so that's part of the mastermind is I teach people how to put together their talk
mm,
and build their influence. And then I give them a stage and like, here's your stage, so they can grab pictures and say they shared the stage with people like Ben Newman.
huge.
And so
Yeah.
this is for entrepreneurs who are ready to go big, but they just need some strategies and tools and tips how to get there.
Mm.
And people are always so surprised when I open up my playbook and, my friend Catherine Gordon, who I think you knew, she's like, Amberly, you just don't hold back. Like you share everything you've done to get to where you are. And
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, because there's enough success. There's enough opportunity for all of us. And so whatever I can share, I open up my playbook and my little black book and make connections.
Mm.
But this event is going to be in Dallas, Texas, April 19th and 20th. There's so many surprises about it. I don't think I can share yet, but my event planner is like, Amberly, you might maybe need to reel it in a little bit. I'm like, no, we're going big. We're going big.
Mm.
So there's a lot of surprises we're pulling out. So I'm super excited. If you just go to go.amberlylago.com/event, you will find it. And I haven't even, I'm about to share it on social media and all that. So super excited about it.
Oh my gosh, amazing. We'll link it in the show notes. What an opportunity. And to your point, like getting in the room and being in the energy is that, I think if someone's listening, like that is one piece of action you can take to go ahead and just say, yes, I'm ready to step up to the next level. I'm ready to elevate. And I'm ready to really see what happens when I bet on myself. And you have embodied that in your life and today on this episode. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your presence, for your wisdom again, and just for the gift of me and for everyone getting to be in your energy and feel this is incredibly empowering. So thank you so, so much.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful for you and to be on the show
Mm.
and excited for you to come pour into my mastermind as well.
Yeah,
So I
thank you.
appreciate you and all that you've done. I will never forget early on, like when I first got started, I don't think I even had a TED talk or book or anything. And you so generously took the time to talk with me
Mm.
and just share a little bit about branding, because I think I just bought my first laptop, didn't own a computer. I was like brand new.
My
That was
gosh.
probably one of my first times on Zoom, actually. And I'm not kidding. Like you were just so helpful in your
Mm,
expertise. And so I appreciate you. And I just wanted to say, you said some things on that call that I took to heart and I never
mm,
forgot. So I'm grateful. I'm the luckiest to call you a friend, and
mm.
grateful for you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Amberly. And it's such a testament to that wasn't, I don't know, it was years ago, but it wasn't that many years ago. So for someone who's thinking, oh, it's too late for me to get started, I don't know what I'm doing. Look at what Amberly has built in a relatively short amount of time, and it will blow you away and inspire you of what's possible when you just show up and do the work and commit to yourself and really do believe in and commit to turning that pain into purpose. So you're amazing. Thank you so, so much for being here today.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. All right. To you, my listener, man, what a conversation, right? Like, I know you're going to want to go back and listen to this again and again. Share it with someone who needs some inspiration and some motivation today. Go connect with Amberly on social, sign up for her event. It'll change your life. Thank you, as always, for being a member of the She Sells community. I'll see you on our next episode.